This podcast was created as a part of Podcast Lab by India Film Project in association with Anchor by Spotify.
Writing, to me, is everything I want it to be. On some days, it is all that I tell my best friend by the end of a happy day, and on some days, it is that little inner voice I shush on a particularly challenging morning. It is the comfort of a warm cup of coffee as I watch the rains, the call that I should have made to start something new or have the last say but couldn't. It is the rage within me that questions everybody that asks me to be realistic. It is a joy that I want to celebrate with you in many ways. It is one too many things, but always, always comforting. It comforts me. It gives me purpose. It pushes me. It challenges me. It nudges me. It stares me right in the eye. It is the most beautiful form of expressing myself, figuring out myself, listening to myself, and I feel I'm my creative best only when I write. It brings out my most authentic self, without pretense, without holdbacks, without self judgment. It is how we tell our stories best while trying to understand that of someone else. After all, we all are trying to understand and be understood.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Closet Writer Chronicles. I'm your host Sangeeta, a.k.a. the Moody Marshmallow. You just heard our guest for today, Shiva Chandrika, also known as Rave. Rave is a visual communications graduate who went on to study for the civil services and now works as a content writer and scriptwriter. She's worked on films like Vadacurry and Bigil. She's also written a graphic novel that's slated to release soon, and she runs a poetry page on Instagram. We talk all things writing, storytelling, and creativity on this episode, and also talk about online plagiarism. Rave also tells us about what kind of films she hopes to make in the future. So welcome to the Closet Writer Chronicles. On today's episode, I have with me Shiv Chandrika, aka Rave. So thank you for being on the show, Rave. It's so good to have you here.
No, thank you for thinking of me. It was such a surprise when you got in touch with me, when you texted me, and I was so kicked about it because, like I said, very few things are cooler than this. Very few things are cooler than having your own podcast. And I've been seeing the way you've progressed over time, and it's phenomenal. So I'm so happy to be here. The pleasure is all mine. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. It's very, very, very sweet of you. But yeah, I think before anything else, I'm going to start with a very obvious question, which you must get asked a lot, which is about your name. So I know your real name is Shiv Chandrika, but you go by Rave, which is your pen name, but you're also known as Rave to most of your friends and family also, I believe. So what's the story behind that?
It is quite an interesting one. So Shiva Chandrika is my name, and on all my certificates, I go by Shiva Chandrika. But it's so funny. And Shiva Chandrika was because I was named after my mom's parents, like a bit of both their names. Love that name. But Rave was Rave is a short form, not really a short form for Revti. Revti is my nakshatra.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, Revti is my nakshatra. I did have a cousin who wanted to name me Revti, but that's the story you should edit. But Rave is the short, it's a short form for Revti, and people, that's my nickname. But people caught on to Rave faster than Shiva Chandrika, because when somebody asks me what's your name, and I'm like Shiva Chandrika, and they're like, what? Sorry? So you're just like, it's just a name. It isn't so hard. It isn't rocket science. It's Shiva Chandrika. It's just Shiva Chandrika. But so you just want to avoid that. And I say Rave. But I get asked, like people walk up to me and ask me, who's Rave? Or people walk up to me and ask me, who's Shiva Chandrika? So I'm used to it now. Yeah. But that's the story. Shiva Chandrika is the name. Rave is also the name. But not everybody know that, very few people know that I'm the same person. Like Shiva Chandrika is Rave.
Yeah. Yeah, because I know that's something I know this is a question you get asked a lot, but I was like, why not? Why not ask this
Yes.
again for the 100th
Yes.
time? That Rave, aka Shiv Chandrika, or Shiv Chandrika, aka
Yeah.
Rave, answers
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
question about her name. But no,
Yeah.
it's amazing that how people just kind of randomly it's like how now I'm known as the moody marshmallow, no one knows me as Sangeeta.
Right, right, right. Of course, right. Of course, yeah.
Yeah.
That is
So
a good example.
but I mean, I think Rave is a much more cooler. It's shorter, it's easier, and
Easier,
it
easier.
just
Yeah,
sounds
for
also
sure.
cooler for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
But
for sure.
no,
So people are like taken aback. Rave, is that really your name? And I have to be like, okay, yeah, Rave is my name, but no, Shiva Chandrika is my name. So, and they're like, oh, okay.
and hence we have her handle, What is the Rave About, which all of you should go check out.
Right.
There's some beautiful poetry and writing on there, which I will be
Oh,
linking for sure.
you're kind. You're too kind.
But which brings me to my next question of how did you get into writing? Because I know you were actually a business student in school. You took commerce and then you went on to do visual communication and whatnot. And
Right,
the next thing I know, suddenly you're into writing and you're a screenwriter and doing all
right,
these like cool things. And I was
right.
like, oh wait, how did you get into writing? When did you start, and when did you realize
Yeah.
this was something you wanted to do professionally?
Professionally, I would say that was um, very recently, but I've always been writing, and I did not know how good I was until my English teachers, once they evaluated my papers, they'd be like, you should think of taking English, like for mainstream, probably in the years to come, because you're really good. Your essays are really good. And it took me like 3 years to even totally believe them, because I just thought, okay, I'm writing all right. I did not know if I did not know that it was that good. But I remember some of my English teachers, they're the reason that I thought, okay, you know what, we should pursue this. I'm pretty sure they're not lying, because when the teachers keep telling you again and again, you want to believe them at a certain point of time. But
Right.
you're like, okay, maybe you're good at this. And I started writing, for competitions, and by chance I got enrolled in a poetry writing competition in fifth, and I won the
Okay.
national prize, like a silver medal.
Oh,
So
nice.
that was a validation. That was I think that's when I realized, okay, you know what, maybe you should take this seriously. And then I became a closet writer. So I've
Oh,
always been writing. I have a ton of books, I have a ton of journals, and I scribble everywhere, and I'm constantly scribbling somewhere or the other. And I still have like little sticky notes, I have little notes everywhere. And I think it took me a while to realize, okay, you know what, you can make a living out of this. Even if not a living, you can do this
right.
constantly. If I wouldn't say completely professional, yeah, I do write professionally now, but it took me a while. Like it's just been 4 years or something, three
Yeah.
3 years. Yeah.
No, but that's amazing that you're able to do what you love as a job,
Yeah.
which I know
Yeah.
it's difficult for a lot of people to be able to do that, and the fact that you
Yes.
can is just it's amazing for sure.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and that's incredible. But I also know you wrote a graphic novel also, like recently, which I had no idea about. How did that happen? What is that about? Like, can you tell us?
Yes, for sure. So that was something that happened by chance.
Oh,
I
okay.
Yeah, that was not planned at all. And most of the wonderful things in my life have happened by chance. It was not like I had ever gone looking for it. It so landed on
Okay.
my lap, and I just embraced it. And lucky me, it turned out well. So I was taking a gap year and figuring out things. And I started working for somebody on a project called Art Rush. So
Okay.
basically, just developing a project. It was art for digital art. So
Okay.
by as a product. And as I was working on it, so this I actually wrote this for somebody else. The author of the graphic novel is somebody else, someone called
Okay.
Ramesh Thamilmani. So he
Okay.
had the idea, and it was a graphic novel with Shah Rukh Khan as the face of, uh, he was the face of the novel. It's
Oh,
Atharva.
nice.
It's called Atharva. Yeah, it's called
Okay.
Atharva. So he had put the whole project together. Everything, it had all begun. He kickstarted it, and so he had the whole story. He had the whole idea, and he just wanted somebody to write it. He has
Okay.
not written anything. He does not read anything. And it took me a long time for, I don't think he still read some of the pages that I've written. He just listens to it. So he's just like,
Okay.
I trust you. Like, I know how you write. So I trust you 100%. So we discuss a lot. So he had this idea and he wanted that to come to fruition. And so he had this theme which did not work too well.
Okay.
And the project got delayed a lot because there was no work, there was no progress. And it
Right.
was quite a big project because the artwork of it was almost done and it is
Okay.
phenomenal. So he had a
Okay.
really good digital artist. So every page that you have the art on the left side and the content on the right.
Okay.
And all of the left pages were filled and they all looked phenomenal. And there were none of the text pages were filled. Some they had just started working on it, but it wasn't done. So he
Okay.
said, okay, do you want to help me with it? Like, first, you just want to start editing what we've written so far. I started editing and I found that there was so much that was going on. Like you could, as I was reading it, I kept, making notes and I said, you know what, you can say this, but it sounds better this way. So I was
Right.
making suggestions because it's obviously um, not okay to overstep and say, you know what, just don't write this because somebody else has written this. And
Yeah.
then he realized, okay, you know what, you're actually good at it. So I want you to do the whole thing. So start afresh. You can do the whole thing. You have complete autonomy. And that's how it began. So that's like 13 to 14 chapters. And
Wow.
we did over 1.5 years. And that was a very interesting process because it's I did not have the burden of coming up with the idea because
Right.
somebody had the idea. I just had to, chisel. I just had to make small changes here and there, even with the idea. I just had to, and luckily he trusted me with the way I wrote, and he told me how he wanted things to be. He never
Right.
told me what not to do or what to do. He was like, "You carry on, you go with the flow, but this is the soul I want the book to have." And
Hmm.
that was fun. That was fun to do, and it's done. But there is a production problem. So I think now it was the agreement was with Shah Rukh Khan, but now I think there's a problem with that. So they're changing the face of Atharva. So that's
Okay.
why. Yeah, but I still have it. It's right there. Like it's a beautiful book. Sometimes I look at it and I just feel so bad because you're done with it. It's all done, and you're like, okay, when am I
Yes,
going to be
really.
able to see it on the shelves? In the stores. I'd like to
Yeah.
see that. It's a beautiful book. It's a nice story. It's a story of it's set in a different era, and I hope it's out soon so you can tell me what you think of it.
Yeah. No, I'll definitely pick it up. It sounds amazing. So I'm assuming this was kind of like a ghostwriting project then. That's my
Yes,
assumption.
yes, it was. It was.
Okay, yeah, but no, that's so cool that you got to work on something like this, and I really can't wait to get the
Yeah, the
book and
pressure
read
was
it.
real. The pressure was real because I was like, oh God, are you really saying so and so is going to be the face of this book? And I have a lot on my shoulder now. And he said, just forget it. Just think
Yeah.
you're going to write for yourself. So
No,
yeah,
but no,
that
that's
was fun.
that's incredible. Cannot wait to read it for sure. But I think speaking of graphic novels and now Shah Rukh Khan and whatnot, how has the screenwriting journey been? How did you even like get into screenwriting? Because I'm assuming you start writing and then you like people. It's very difficult while growing up, usually in an Indian environment or South Asian environment, to
Right.
grow up being like, oh, I'll get into art. I don't think that's something most parents are for
For
usually.
sure.
So,
For sure.
to kind of, to decide to get in, I mean, you were doing visual communication and then, of course, you worked on this graphic novel recently. But how do
Right.
you decide to get into something like screenwriting, especially when you were also doing your civil services? Like,
Oh,
how did that
yes.
happen?
That was a nightmare. That was a nightmare. So that was my gap year right after, I don't know. I was working in films and I decided, okay, you know what, let's just take a break. Let's figure out what I want to do. And I got into civil services, which was entirely different. I
Hmm.
had to study the newspaper for 4 hours. And apart from that, I had to learn everything under the sun. I had fun. It was interesting. No regrets. I don't think I'd ever, that changed me, that shaped me that 1 year. It really made me a lot of things that I'm
proud of being today. But once I got done with that, I gave in the first exam. So it's 3 levels. And I got done with the first level. And even before the results could be out, I got done with the exam. I came back home and I said, you know what? I'm not doing this. I'm not going to pursue this because this is way too serious for me. And there's absolutely no scope for creativity. There's absolutely no scope for, you know, anything. It didn't have anything to do with art or feelings or emotions. And you had to be very, very, to the point. And that's amazing. I really have a lot of respect for people who pursue that and, who succeed in that direction. It is definitely challenging. It's not for the, it's not for everybody, for sure.
Yeah.
But if I had to do it all over again, no, I wouldn't. So I said, this is not happening. Sometimes you do something, you know what you want to do only by eliminating something you don't want to do.
That's true.
And that was something that I knew I could never do. So I decided that day I have to be in the creative field because that's the only place I can thrive. That's where I belong. That's where I can be myself.
Right.
And, I decided, okay, let's just not do that. Let's just not, shock ourselves and everybody else around us. Let's do what we're good at. And I started working in films. And so working in films has always been like a dream. I always wanted to be on the other side of the camera, direction. And I did intern in a couple of films in college. And I did work in one, but that was way back in 2014, 15. And I took a good break. And after that, I started working on it very recently. And right after the film, so during the film itself, like when you're working in the film, you obviously have to deal with scripts.
Right.
You have the entire
Which
process.
ones did you work on, if I may ask?
Yeah. So the first one was Tagral. That was just interning. That was not basically working. The second one was Vadacurry, and the third was Bigil.
Okay.
So I wrapped up with Bigil because that was the last one, and lockdown happened right after. And I figured, okay, you know what? If you have to work in films, you got to be making your own next. So enough working for, So I got done with Bigil, and you put yourself through the process of filmmaking, and it's really interesting because every day is an adventure. When you make a film, every day is an adventure. You don't know what's going to hit you. Some days you need to wake up, put your feet down and convince yourself, like ask yourself, do I really need this? And the answer will invariably be yes. You might probably there'll be a lot of convincing that happens, but you get up, you dress up, you show up. And when I finished that, I realized, okay, movies, I always wanted to be in movies, but I also figured that I liked writing for films. And even the script writing, it happened by chance. I started working on my script because obviously I want to become a director, and I started working on my script. And when I was doing that, I had a friend approach me for just 10 minutes in his script. So he had this idea and he was like, you know what, I've seen your page and you write so soulfully. And I somehow feel like, you could bring out this character. This is one character I need to crack and I'm not able to. And I would love to have your perspective because, it's the female lead and she is quite a strong character. And I think, would you be able to help me out? And it was just 10 minutes that he had asked for, which kind of stretched into the entire script. Like we collaborated. Yeah, I really got involved. And so I liked the idea. I liked the story. And it kind of got stretched into writing the whole script, collaborating with him for sure. And so that's how it began. And now I have people approaching me like for scripts for the silver screen. So I realized that's something I enjoy doing. So that was another discovery, which was fun.
Wow, that's incredible. And what kind of stories are you looking at making then in the future, since you want to eventually get into direction and obviously, writing your own stories and putting them on the screen? Like what kind of films do you resonate with and what do you want to make?
I don't know if I could just pick one genre, but I would want to make a film that changes the audience in some way or the other. When they leave the theater, I wouldn't want it to just be an entertainer. I'd want my film to make them feel differently, to think differently. I'd want them to have a strong takeaway when they leave the theater. So that's what I know for sure. Whether it's a funny movie, whether it's a drama, whether it's, It's an art film. I don't know. But the one I'm writing right now, it's not too complicated because you don't want to be too experimental. You don't
Right.
want to take too much of a risk because wanting to make a film by itself is a risk. So you
Yeah.
don't want to, you don't want to get too experimental. I would say right now it's a feel good drama. So
Oh,
that's what
that's
I'm
nice.
working on currently. And also movies that make you happy. 'Cause
Yeah.
there are so many movies that I watch and it just doesn't leave me because it kind of shakes up something in me.
Right.
And you're feeling miserable. You're like, what did I just watch? Why did that movie have to end that way? I mean,
Yeah.
all are beautiful. Some of the most beautiful films break your heart, but
That's true.
I don't think I'd ever make a movie that breaks your heart. I'm always like, oh, please, let's finish the movie happily.
Yeah, with a smile on
Let
your face.
yes, please, for sure. There's enough going on in the world. And, if a movie, if 3 hours can just kind of not just take your mind off things, but make you happier by the end of it, then why not?
Yeah. And I think the world could definitely use a lot of nostalgia right now.
Yes,
I think,
yes, yes, for sure. You said it right.
yeah, because, this was a conversation I was having with another guest. I was talking to Dia Rekhi. You also know her. She's
Oh,
a
right.
journalist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we
Right.
were
How is
talking.
she?
Oh, she's good. So we were
Right.
talking about films and
Right.
serials and like basically OTT content and stuff. And both of
Right.
us were like, what happened to like films they used to make? What happened to those?
Right.
Like now it's
Right.
not the same.
Exactly. Exactly. Now it's become so commercial. Now
Yeah.
movies are not just about movies, they're also about so many other things which alter the content.
Yeah.
So, you seldom feel, a movie seldom feel wholesome, I think.
Yeah.
There's so much going on in films, and very rarely, like, you're like, oh my God, I love that film.
Yeah.
It really reminded me of something else. There are days when you just
Exactly.
want to watch an old movie because you just, you're looking for some comfort.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I remember Dia having something, what makes you go cuckoo? She
Yeah.
also had a lockdown,
Yeah.
experiment, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
we
yeah.
talk about that
Yes,
in
yes.
her episode. So
Oh,
uh
right. Okay, that's
listeners
nice.
can tune into that as well. So yeah. I'm just gonna shamelessly plug all my things
Oh,
on this
please, you
episode.
must. You must.
But no, I mean, it's great that you're working on films. But having said that, what are films that have stayed with you? Like, are there any specific movies or directors that have really stayed with you, whose work has really stayed with you?
I'm a big time Mani Ratnam fan.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
big time. I could study his films. And I read his book for the longest time. There was actually this joke going on because I'll always be walking around with the book because I'll read something and I'll read it again because I wouldn't be sure if I really understood what he said.
Right.
I think I really love Mani Ratnam films, but apart from that, there are a couple of films that really stayed with me. 12 Angry Men, which was suggested by my brother-in-law way back when I was in
Hmm.
college, and he was like, "Have you seen that?" And that that was phenomenal. When I watched that film, and I was actually like, you know what? There's nothing. There's just this one room, 12 people, no
Yeah.
change of location, no big drama, no hoopla, but you are so hooked,
Yeah.
and that blew my mind.
Yeah.
So 12 Angry Men, and I like all kinds of chick flicks too, and I
Yeah.
like all
Same. Me too.
yeah, yeah, and I really like some classic romance like The Notebook,
Mm.
and I there are so many. Nothing's
Yeah.
coming to my
The
mind
The Devil
now.
Wears Prada is my all-time
Oh
favorite.
yes,
I very
oh
shamelessly, I'm like,
yes,
it's my all-time favorite comfort film. I will go to that film n number of
yes.
times.
Oh yes, for sure. Devil Wears Prada, and I don't know. I also like the Avengers series. I like everything. I
Hmm.
literally watch every movie. Every
No,
movie. I watch
that's
every
amazing.
movie. I go to the theater for every movie. I even get made fun of for it because I'd sometimes walk out of a really bad movie, and I'd be wondering why did I do that to myself. But I think by
Yeah,
the end of the day, if you want to make a film, you also need to know the good bad ones.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I think the ones you're resonating with more mostly, and I think it's great. You take that step to really go figure out. Okay, this is what I like. This is what I resonate with. This is
Yes.
what I want to make, which is extremely important. But
Yes,
no,
for
that's so
sure.
cool.
And college made me watch a lot of these films that had to be studied,
Okay,
like Citizen Kane, or
nice.
Rashomon, and so many movies that you just had to study, and you had to do an entire project on movies too. So I picked Django. So I had to watch
Okay,
Django about like 8 times, and I
wow.
went crazy by the end of it. So when you have to study films, I think you also just start watching all kinds of films.
Yeah,
And now I watch, and I love, and because of OTT now, thanks to OTT, you have this unlimited option of
true.
movies. And with my mom, we always pick some Malayalam movie, and I recently
Yeah,
saw Home, and I was
yeah.
in awe. I in fact felt a little ashamed because you're not writing content like that. I'm not writing a movie, I'm not writing a script like that literally touches your heart. That
Yeah.
literally, says this is regional cinema, but people can relate to it globally,
Hmm,
you know.
true.
That was nice. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. That's amazing. I always love talking to all my guests about stories that they love, be it books,
Right.
movies, whatever it is. I think it's always an amazing conversation I have regarding
Right.
this.
Right.
It was great to
Right.
hear you about it. But sort of coming back into the writing stream of things, or rather the
Right.
creativity stream of things.
Right.
So I know you write poetry. You're working on films. You've written a graphic novel now. Um, how different are your creative processes for each of them? Because I know the formats for each are obviously different, but would you say your process for ideation and creation are the same, or are they very different because of the formats?
I haven't thought about it until now, but I think it's the same,
Hmm.
because by the end of the day, you just want to convert your feelings and your thoughts into words, and that can only come from one original place. So my process has always been, understanding the idea, understanding the content, understanding what you want to put out there,
Okay.
and just translating how you feel about it. That's it. So maybe just the method has been different, because obviously script writing gives you certain rules, and with poems there are no rules.
Hmm.
And for everything else there are rules, but for poetry there are absolutely no rules, and that's the beauty of it. So you have that extra freedom when it comes to poetry, but with the other things, I think that there are no restrictions as such. But my process has always been the same. I sit down and I don't think about it until I have to think about it.
Right.
I know people who, think about something the whole day. It's always at the back of their head. They're
Hmm.
letting it simmer, they're letting an idea marinate. And then when they get down to writing, it comes easily. But for me, I cannot think about something until I have to. I cannot write about something until the page is right in front of me, until I'm holding the pen. And
Okay.
until then, I just cannot. It doesn't happen. So I tried it for the longest time. I tried to like perfect my thoughts. I tried to perfect my words even before they became words, but it wasn't working for me. And I realized I was wasting time, and I was fretting, and it was useless. So I stopped doing that. So it's only when I hold a pen in between my fingers that do the words and feelings actually come to me.
Wow.
And I
No,
took the
that's
longest time to like start typing, because
okay.
I cannot type. It's very difficult. I can type, of course, I can type, but it'd be dumb to say I cannot type. But I write better. I'm old school, so I write better on paper than
Yeah.
than on my laptop.
Get Rave a notebook and a pen on set. Do not give her a laptop. Moral of the
Oh,
story.
yes. Yes, yes. My colleagues used to make fun of me because they were like, what are you carrying all these, why do you have a bag? Why are you carrying this journal? Why are you carrying this to-do list when you have a phone? Just put it on your phone. Why are you not, why are you not being this modern person? And I was just like, leave me alone. Let me just be this person who is still wanting to write down what she has to do tomorrow in her planner.
Yeah, I
So
still do.
that's,
I'm guilty of that too. Just say.
yeah.
Like I tried the whole e-planner thing, it does not work for me. So I still have a notebook where I write things. I'm like, this is what I need to get done today. Tick it off once it's done. And it's so therapeutic also. At least I find it therapeutic, kind of checking things off.
For sure. So even with Atharva, I used to write on, paper. And the author of the book, he's very digital and he has everything. He probably can open a door. He'll know how to open a door with some button on the laptop. So that's how he works. And he was like, you know what, get on with the times. Times are changing. Start writing in the laptop. So I think that's when that's when the transition happened. Okay, you can probably write on the laptop too. Maybe it's a thing.
Yeah, no, it's definitely different. I mean, once you get used to it, it's nice. But yeah, it's there's nothing like good old pen and paper. I get what you're saying for sure. Yeah. But no, it's so cool that, you say that the processes actually aren't that different, and I always, it's always very intriguing to me whenever I talk to different, writers about, how they work on different things. And some of them will be like, oh, it's completely different because I have to think this way for something. And some are like, no, it's exactly the same. So it's really cool to hear your perspective on this. But coming to poetry, I know you've been writing for a while. And I know especially during like lockdown and the pandemic, you were churning out stuff occasionally, you would, and then you ended up creating an Instagram page. But I also know before that you would from time to time put out, these pieces, and some really like lovely pieces of work you'd put out, and which would end up getting like screenshotted and shared by like a lot of like, I think mutual friends, and just generally it would be out. And the next thing I know, it's gone viral. And I know this has happened with some of your pieces, and it's never been named.
Yes, for sure. And I think the main reason for that is the lockdown, because all of us were on the internet, all of us were on our phones, and the accessibility and connectivity was happening at a much faster rate. And it was crazy because you write something and so many people have read it already. And it was just in the beginning of my public page. So I was taking part in all these workshops, writing workshops, and poetry workshops, and that would happen online. So they have these sections where you get to post what you write. So I was, you do this for fun. It's the lockdown. There's not much to do, and you do it. And, suddenly one fine day, it started popping
blowing
up on different pages, and people were sending it to me. And a couple of them, actually, not just one or two, a couple of them, I was really like shook. I was really like, oh, what's happening? Is this for real? Like, is this actually happening? And I did not know how to wrap my head around it.
Okay.
And I think I stopped writing. I stopped going for these workshops. I stopped. I dropped out of all these, I think communities. I did. And then I took my time to actually sit and think about it. Okay, why are you feeling this way? Okay, you wrote something. People are sharing it. Isn't that a good thing? It's fine. What are you writing for? You're not writing for recognition. At least at that point of time, I was not writing for recognition. I was writing because it felt nice. I wanted people to relate to it. And I was having fun. So I realized, okay, this is on you. You started writing on a public platform because you wanted people to see it. And now people are seeing it. So be happy with it. And I think I kind of got around to it. And now also, like, if people are posting stuff, it just doesn't get to me, because that's a risk that I took, putting my words on the public platform, because you can do it other ways too. If you're really not wanting people to read it, then you just shouldn't put it up on Instagram. If you don't want people to share it, you shouldn't be doing it on an open, on a public page. You should probably be writing it in your diary, or go the right way to make a book out of it. But that's not something I was doing. So I had to like talk to myself and tell myself, you cannot be, you can't be pulled down by this. Just take it in your stride, because if you want to make something, if you want to be serious about this, you shouldn't be doing it on Instagram. What you do on Instagram is for people to relate, people to read, people to share.
Yeah.
And you get a kick out of it. That's it.
No, but sharing your work is one thing, and I get what you're saying. But I think the other thing was, I remember there was, and I'm not going to name the piece, but I know there was this one piece of yours that went really viral, like during lockdown. And it was great. It was being shared and everyone was seeing it, and it was a beautiful piece of work for sure. Which is why it deserved the popularity it received and the love it got. And for the longest time, like it was obviously going around as anonymous, and then suddenly one fine day there was this one writer who came and claimed it. And that was very, yeah. And it was very blatant plagiarism that had happened. Obviously, no one knew who had no one knew where it came from, and no one claimed it till that point. And then suddenly you had
somebody did.
And
I was happy people were sharing it until then, because I really didn't I wasn't looking for, oh, that's my piece, like put my name in it. But when somebody else's name comes up with your words, that feels that that feels a little painful. So there was a pang in my heart, and I didn't know how to feel about it, like I said. But I had really good friends. I have a very supportive family who actually said, okay, you know what, it's okay. This does not mean that you stop writing. It just means that, you know that you're writing really well. That's what you need to understand. That people all around the world, people who are reading it on the internet, they really resonate with what you're writing. So you're a nice writer. So keep going. I had family and friends who really reached out to me. I had family and friends. I had my family who was there for me. And, even my friends, some of them, they took the time to like text me and say, it's okay. Just make sure you don't stop writing because of this. And I realized, okay, first I was a lot hectic about it. I was actually all riled up, and I was so, I think I decided to like not write at all on the internet. And then I realized, you know what? It's not that big a deal. It seems like a big deal because we all don't have anything else to talk about now. All of us are home. We're all in the lockdown. And it just feels like, okay, that's what's happened to you, and you feel like, oh, I deserve, like that piece deserves to have my name because I wrote it. People deserve to know I wrote it. But after a point in time, I was like, does it matter? It's okay, let it go. Because you're talented, you shouldn't stop writing. For all you know, in the future, something better than this can be bigger than this. And but more than anything, you don't really write for something to be big. You just write because it's comforting. So if it could be that little bit of comfort for another person, win-win. That's it. That's how I look at it.
No, and I think that's a great way to look at it, because I mean, obviously plagiarism is a very sensitive topic. First of all, it's not cool. You should never plagiarize. Just
not cool.
I mean, like imitation may be the best form of flattery, but in this case, really not. Just come up with your own work. Just imitation, or this case, like openly just claiming someone else's work as yours. But
right. And you feel so powerless when you can't do anything about it.
That's true.
Because this is on you. You put it up on an internet platform. You put it up on Instagram, and
and anonymously, obviously,
on a forum, on a poetry forum. So there's absolutely nothing you can do. So I got myself out of that slump.
And that's amazing. But you should never plagiarize, guys. For everyone listening, please don't. if you do find someone who is plagiarizing work, please, as much as possible, do call them out if you can, because it's just unfair to people who are actually out there creating, good work.
For sure.
But more power to you, Rave, for taking everything head on and kind of just carrying on with like your head held high, definitely.
Thank you. It takes an army of family and friends.
For sure. Touch wood, definitely. But I mean, coming to poetry then, so obviously plagiarism is one part of it, but now there's suddenly become this huge online community of poets that have just come up during the lockdown. Like suddenly, I mean, including me, when I started a page and started putting up poetry too. But, it's incredible how much the community has grown. And of course, there are all kinds of people and, content on there, but there's some really interesting work that's coming out now. And there are people who are actually even now making livelihoods out of, their pages, their online, poetry and work. What is your take on the online community of poets there are today? And who are some of your favorite online poets?
I would definitely say Rupi Kaur, because I love her work. I also like Nikita Gill. And I like Atticus poetry. I like Naira Waheed. And but most importantly, rather more importantly, more than any of them, I like the Moody Marshmallow
Oh,
because,
oh God.
I mean, how can I not? I have to mention.
Oh
Really,
my God.
I really, I do. You go that extra mile. You take the effort to make it look nice too. I don't. I'm just like taking something, doing some floral stuff. But you have this little graphic design going on, and it's really cute. You make it very artsy. So it's your words and your little art kind of balances out really well. And I remember a piece about rainbow. I really loved it.
Oh, thank
So
you.
yeah, and
That's
so
very
many.
kind of you. Thank you so much. No, but you're a wonderful writer yourself, and your page is much better looking than mine. Please don't take like Rave is like you see her page, it's so aesthetic and it's so pleasing. And it's like, oh my God, what am I doing with mine? But yeah.
You're too kind. Thank you.
But no, like what is but no, what is your opinion on the community today that's just suddenly like cropped up and it's doing so well?
um, I think it's great. I think it's amazing. And I know, like you said, people have, made a living out of it.
Yeah.
And I know that's how Rupi Kaur started. I think she
Mm.
started writing on something else. I don't remember the platform name, but then she got to Instagram where she,
Mm.
it became full blown. And but why not? I think Instagram gives you this perfect platform for everybody to read your poetry. And
Right.
you don't really need anything to become a poet except just make a post and
Yeah.
put it up on Instagram, and these hashtags with 30 hashtags, and you can do wonders with it. It can reach so many people, and that bite-sized poetry, and
Yeah.
that just fits within a grid. It's so easy. You don't need a lot of time. It's as you're scrolling, you can just stop and read it, and you're like, and you double tap, and that double
Yeah.
tap makes a lot of difference for the person who wrote it, because they're like, okay, you know people like this, people like what I'm writing, and this is wonderful. And I know that there is a school that says this is not poetry. Instagram
Mm.
poets are not poets, and you're just ranting, you're just talking about what's happening in your life, and people are relating because they probably have something similar happening in theirs too. But I'm just like, no, we art needs to evolve with
Yeah.
time. We need to get on with the changing times, and poetry does too. We are living in a digital world, and
Yeah.
things are modernizing so fast. And why not, let's just include poetry in that as well. And it's
Yeah.
fun, right? You So there's so much that you can get stuck with on Instagram, and if
For
poetry
sure.
is one of that, I think I'd love to be stuck with poetry on Instagram.
Yeah, same.
So
The
yeah.
number of poetry pages I follow. I think my writing page is only dedicated to that, like poetry
Right,
and other writers. And I'm
right,
just there like scrolling through it. I'm like, oh my God, this person wrote
right.
this today. But
Yeah,
yeah.
and some of them are such beautiful
Yeah,
pieces, and
for sure.
you find yourself saving them because that's something you'll want to read another day when you feel a certain way, and some of them are really beautiful. So
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
I'm definite. I think it's definitely it's a wonderful platform
Yeah.
for poetry. Instagram
Yeah.
is a wonderful platform.
No, for sure. And you're right. It has given, I think, a voice to so many people who couldn't otherwise put out their work. And I think it's a great equalizer in a sense of
Yes.
really giving everyone that sort of equal opportunity to just put their work out and see what kind of reception you get. And some people really like blow up, and
Yeah.
it's amazing to see the kind of work that's coming out.
Right.
Um, and I think it's also a testament to the fact that all kinds of poets and writing can coexist. There's no like one
Oh
is better
yes.
than the other, or one is
Oh yes.
not good
Yes.
or whatever. It's
Yeah, for sure. Because there's no comparison when it comes to art and poetry
for
or
sure.
writing. And
For
each
sure.
piece is um each piece is beautiful. You
Yeah.
can't say that is better than this, because by the end of the day, it's belittling to
Mm,
both the pieces if you're going to do that. So,
yeah.
like you said, it is wonderful because you have all kinds of poets. You have something for everybody
That's true.
on it, right?
Yeah.
You'll definitely find something that you like, no
For
matter
sure.
how picky you are.
Yeah, that's true. This is very
Yeah.
true. It's just figuring out your taste. But yeah, I mean, more power to social media in this aspect.
Right. Right.
But people who are plagiarizing, please stop plagiarizing. Nonetheless, I'm just gonna keep putting this disclaimer because it really irritates me when I see something that's plagiarized and I know where it's from.
Right.
Yeah, I will stop ranting about this. But yeah, I think now we're kind of coming towards the end of this interview, and
Oh no, did that really happen that fast?
yes, it did.
Yeah, we're really
But
good at talking.
yeah, yeah, we can go on, but sadly, listeners may not want to keep listening to this. But
So
yeah,
if you've gotten until this part of this podcast, amazing. Like you
amazing to
pat
you.
yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. More power to all of you listeners, and
Yeah.
also testament to us that we're doing a good job with this conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think just coming, we always end the show with these two last questions. So the
Right.
first one is, what are your aspirations? What is, something you're looking forward to in the near or distant future? Could be anything, personal, professional, creative.
Okay. Honestly, I'm just looking forward to nothing and everything all at the same time. I've never specifically asked anything from the universe except to be surprised in all good ways. And somehow that's always worked well. That's it. The universe has always been in my favor. I, I I've always believed that the universe conspires in my favor, you know. And knowingly or unknowingly, I found myself in projects which are very different from each other, but I've loved working on them nonetheless. And so I'm pretty sure what's to come is going to be the best, and I can't wait. I honestly don't have any specific expectations. I know whatever it is, I'm just going to have a good time, and I'm going to give it my all, and it's going to be fun. That's
Yeah.
it. So be it professionally, personally, whatever, I want to be surprised.
No, that's
So
beautiful. That's amazing. Also, Rave just wrote her new Instagram post, guys. That's the new post that's coming up. That answer is a rave, is a what is the rave about Instagram post coming right up.
very well.
I mean, you said it so beautifully. You might as well make it a post now. But yeah, no, that was very well said. And yeah, I think it is about riding the tide and kind of taking things as it comes, which
Yes,
is lovely. It's
yes.
wonderful.
Yes, because every time I've planned something or every time I've thought, okay, you know what, you should do that, it's never happened. And
Right.
I've been disappointed. And I'm just like, why? What's the point? No, skip that, avoid that. Don't
Yeah.
expect anything. Obviously, you just want to be really good. You want to be successful. You want to be peaceful. You want to be happy. But it you don't need to tie all of that down to just one thing.
Yeah, for sure.
You can have a day of doing absolutely nothing and still feel successful and accomplished by the end of it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at now.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. But yeah, last question.
Yes.
What is a piece of advice or learning you'd like to share with people? Again, this can be personal or professional, or whatever you want it to be. Something maybe you think people should know more about.
If you want something, just be it. If you want something, don't just, as in they say receiving is giving, right? But being is also equally important. I think if you want a kinder world, you be kind. If you
Okay.
want more love, you be love. If you want a friend, be that friend. And if you want to find happiness, find it within.
Yeah.
I think, and also don't take things too personally, because it's most of the times nothing is personal, nothing is meant to attack you personally. Just try to have fun, because we all are here to have a good time.
Yeah.
And if you don't like going on a journey with somebody, just jump the boat, like get on a different wagon, but make sure you have fun without being a hindrance to another person's journey of having fun too, because we're all here to have a good time. That's it.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's Rave's second Instagram post.
Oh my God.
Rave is just throwing poetry and writing out here as answers now. But no, that was very well said. And I think that's something I think a lot of people need to hear and kind of take in for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Very
I
well
think,
said.
yeah, like I think kindness is the need of the hour, especially now after the pandemic, right? You see I saw this on, Danny Shapiro, the writer.
Yeah.
So she'd shared a post about this, about how kindness is of paramount importance now more than ever, because we
Mm,
all have been through, an unkind time in our lives, and all of us have struggled. So right
true.
now, when we re-enter, we know how important it is to be kind to each other and to be kind to ourselves. But we all know, kindness is the only way forward, because it can make everything and anything else bearable.
For sure.
So
For sure.
yeah.
And on that beautiful, lovely note,
Yes.
we've now come to the end. Thank you so much for doing this, Rave.
Yay.
This has been so much fun. I loved talking to you. And I'm sure the
Oh,
listeners are also
thank
going to really
you.
enjoy this.
Thank you. I hope so. Thank you. I had fun, and it was really nice catching up with you.
Thank you so much.
This has been a wonderful adventure for me.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you. Thank you so much.
So that was my conversation with Shiva Chandrika, aka Rave. This was a fun recording, and I especially loved exchanging about movies and getting to know more about her upcoming graphic novel. Closing this episode with two poems written and narrated by Rave. I hope you enjoyed the show, and I'll see you next week with a new guest and a new chronicle to share. Talk soon!
Do you believe in miracles? How do you not believe in new beginnings, fresh starts, one more try just to get it right? When you see the sun showing up day after day, as if only to give you another chance, how can you not know that there's beauty by the end of the day to look up to in awe and unfazed when you see the star studded sky celebrating the moon through each glorious phase? How do you explain the tiny gaps between your fingers that mine seem to fit perfectly within, as if it was meant to be that way, for us to hold on to each other, clasping tight through darkness and light? I, for one, will always be amused by the simple poetries of life, realistic enough to know that these are mere miracles. Now tell me, how do you not think them to be true? For you are a miracle yourself, and the realest one too. What is life, if not art? What are you, if not a poem? What makes sense, if not love?